Hi there. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Daniel Allen, and today we're going to be doing something really kind of cool. I think it is working on a day to night conversion. So when you have a photo that you've taken in the daytime and you want to turn that into a nighttime kind of scene, this is kind of one of the ways you can kind of do that. And I'm really excited for to show you guys this technique. I think it's really powerful because you can do it in a lot of different ways for a lot of different kinds of photos to, you know, maybe enhance the lighting in your scene or enhance the lighting on a subject or, some of those sort of things. There's lots of practical applications for this. And so, I don't know, let's just dive right in and take a look. Oh, I better run the intro. All right. I've got it. I might as well do it, right? So here we go. Okay, let's take a look at kind of what set all of this in motion. So this is a picture of Leavenworth, Washington. It's this really cute Bavarian style town, town in Washington State. Um, and it just kind of has like this Swiss Alps kind of feel to it. And every year they have a tree lighting ceremony where they dress up the entire city with Christmas lights and have a big, to do in the center of the square when they light the tree up. And actually, we'll do the official lighting of the tree like all week long. And there's buses that come up there to ship people up there. It's just really big deal. But you get these really awesome iconic kind of images that you just really can't get anywhere else any other time of the year. So this photo is taken on one of those trips up there, and it's during the daytime. It I love the look of the buildings, but there's nothing really all that special about it. It's just kind of doesn't do anything for me. So I was looking at it and thinking, wow, this would actually have been a pretty cool photo if it was taken at nighttime. And I thought, well, let's go ahead and just make it nighttime then. So, a few days later's worth of effort, figuring everything out, I came up with this photo here. And you can kind of see that the whole image has been turned to this bluish tone that it looks like it was taken at nighttime. And then you've got the different colored lights that are kind of coming through the windows and from street lamps and everything else on the town. And there's even a light up in the mountains to kind of give it that sense of realism. There, would be a light up there, and I did kind of want your eye to be drawn up to the mountains a little bit because I thought it was kind of a really cool background that it was set against, and it kind of added to the realism that there probably is a house. Actually, there is a house right up there, but that house would have a light in its window as well. So I was, acknowledging that. Um, this picture would be too long of a video on how to do it. It took just a lot of time and a lot of effort, and if I did like a time lapse video, I could probably do that, but it would be too much for one person to probably sit through. So um, I decided to do instead this picture, which is much simpler. This picture is up on Mount Spokane, and on top of the mountain down there, over there on the eastern side of Washington State, there's like this stone lookout. I'm not sure the history of it. I probably should have looked that up before I recorded this, but there's a stone lookup out there, and kind of just has this old castle-y kind of, house on the mountain type of look to it. So I thought this would be cool to have just a few different light sources that we could use to demonstrate the effect and give you guys kind of an overview of how to do it. The big problem with this photo, though, is that there's really only two windows here and then the door where there could be light coming through. And that could be enough. That's probably realistically all that would actually be here in this photo if it was taken at nighttime. But I wanted to do more. to kind of light up the scene in general, I wanted to add some like street lamps and a couple porch lights too. So flip over to this photo. I've taken and edited out a couple of distractions that I didn't want in the photo, and I've added these street lights to the image. They don't look terribly realistic right now, just because um, they don't quite match the color, the depth of color that we have going on in this photo, but that's fine because we're going to be messing with all of that anyways during the conversion. So by the time we're done, these will look like they belong in this photo. You'll never even be able to tell that they were added later. And then also, if you zoom in here on the house, I've added a couple little porch lights. Again, very small, almost not noticeable, but you will see them in the final photo with the light kind of emanating from behind them. It'll look very natural and very real. And then when we're all done, the final image is going to look something like this. I've gone ahead and done it ahead of time, mostly for promotional purposes, let people know to watch for this video, but you can kind of see here how the lamps are lit seemingly from the inside. It looks very natural. You would never be able to tell that those were added later. Lights in the windows, lights on the porch lights, and then you have the different lights hitting on the branches from the lamps, giving that warm tone to where the light would be falling naturally on the ground, the grass, the dirt pathway, the stones. So I'm showing you the finished product ahead of time, just so you can kind of get a feel for what my vision was for this photo. What I imagined that this image would look like. So that's what you have to, that's the first step, is to imagine what the image is going to look like at the end. In my mind, I was picturing a really dark scene, lots of dark clouds in the sky, and these individual little lamps kind of lighting the way up to this really warm and inviting, stone house at the top of this hill. And just kind of have your eye get drawn towards it. And then I was also imagining the, where the light would naturally be falling on the scene from those different lighting sources and lighting them accordingly. So let's go ahead and get started with this. All right, the first thing that we're going to do is duplicate this background layer a few times. And I'm going to hit duplicate layer, background copy, and I'm just going to drag this one down to the new layer button down the bottom just as a shortcut for that. And this one I'm going to call the, let's see, nighttime. Call that nighttime. This one, I'm going to call it warm glow. And then I'm going to take and change both of them into smart objects. And remember, creating it into a smart object will give us a kind of a virtual kind of copy of it, so that we can go and apply things to it without doing it destructively, which is what we want to do here. Because we're going to be making changes to the image that we don't want to destroy the pixels. So if we, let's say, change the color to something that's primarily green, and we're like, oh, I wanted it primarily blue, you don't have to go back and try and undo that. You can just change the settings, and it'll just automatically update, which you'll see here in a second. So I'm going to start with the nighttime look and turn off the warm glow. We're going to go up here to filters, and we're going to do a camera raw filter on it. That's going to open up camera raw. And the goal with this image, this is going to be our base nighttime image. So this is the one where it is going to be really dark. So I'm just going to start by dropping the exposure down quite a bit here. Probably a few stops. So let's try 3 stops, see how that does. Makes it really dark. And then we also want to do the blue, drop down the temperature of this quite a bit. Nighttime images are usually very blue. Notice something that happens though. So it's really dark here at 0. The more we start adding blue, it almost kind of lightens up. See that? It kind of brightens up a little bit. So that's how we're able to get away with a really dark image that we're going to be turning blue. I almost have to go darker than you would normally do it. And then I want to also add just a little bit of green into this image. Kind of dial the colors left and right and just kind of see what they do here. I don't want to do much. I'm just going to add like just a little bit of green into the background, mostly just because um, this foreground color is so green anyways. I kind of want to kind of keep it. I don't want it to go away. Um, Next thing we want to do, the shadows are definitely way too dark, so I'm going to boost those up. Let's see what looks good. You see them kind of brightening up there. So we're going to go probably about to here. I want to make sure they stay somewhat realistic, but I want to brighten them up just a little bit. And also, let's see, brighten up the whites just a hair. Let's right about here looks good. And then I'm going to bring up, let's see, the blacks probably most of the way here. I'm going to hit the Alt key and see when I start to lose most of the black detail. What you're seeing on the screen here is where the blacks are getting clipped at. I want to have a nice, black point, but I also kind of want to have a faded look to this. Because I can always come back in later and darken it, but I'm going to leave it right about there. I think that looks good. And also, so something I typically always do is I drop the saturation and boost the vibrance. The reason I do that is because dropping the saturation will kind of kill all the saturation, and then vibrance will bring it up evenly. So if you have something that's oversaturated and something that's undersaturated, this is a really good trick to kind of balance out the color balance of all of that. So drop this down quite a bit here, and then raise the vibrance to bring it back, and this will evenly saturate the image. Maybe right about there looks good. All right, that looks good to me. I will hit OK here. And because it's a smart filter, we can turn it off and on. We can even come back in here, double click it, and we're back to the changes that we had before. If we wanted to, let's say we discovered that we needed to add more white into it, then we can do that and save it, and it would maintain that. So it would update it in the photo. But we're not going to do that because I think this is good, just like this. It's far too dark. If you were to look at a histogram on it, it's like the lower, the bottom of the histogram. There's really nothing really bright in here, which is fine. The lights that we're going to be adding will be adding some brightness back into it. And we're going to do that right now. So here is the warm glow layer that we added. And we're going to add a camera raw filter for it. Here's camera raw filter. And this version of the image is going to be the glowing warm areas of the image. So everywhere where there is light coming off of the light sources and spilling onto the different surfaces, we're going to be using this image to do that. So what we want to do is we want to try and get this to look like an incandescent bulb has lit the entire thing. That's my goal here with this. And so you want to kind of think about what that would look like if there was a light source hitting on it. What would it look like if there was like a light bulb? And obviously lots of yellow. Definitely lots and lots of yellow, and probably also a lot of this magenta as well. So we're going to boost that up quite a bit, and that is looking pretty darn good. You're going to notice that a lot of the already bright areas are kind of blowing out quite a bit. and that's okay. I want to boost up the texture just a touch. And texture, if you're not familiar, is a new slider that's added on the latest version of Lightroom and Camera Raw CC. So you don't see it, you probably need to update. But it just adds a little bit of micro contrast. And this one, you can see if I boost it all the way up, you're starting to see all the little contrast things of the pine needles and the grass and the not so much in the road, although you can, mostly because that's kind of outside the range of what it does. And if you come the other way with texture, it softens everything. And I really, really like the texture slider for softening wooded areas and trees and things in the scene that one of my big beefs with images, for me personally, when I'm taking them in nature, is that the trees tend to be so busy that it just looks awful in your photos. It just looks too much. So this is a really good way to try and calm that down quite a bit, which that's another video another time. But next we're gonna boost up the clarity a smidge. Yeah, just to give it a little bit of a boost. And then up the dehaze quite a bit because I do want to make sure that we are retaining some of that detail in these areas. Still keeping kind of the darker parts. There we go. I think something like that looks really good. I might even boost this up just a little bit more in the warmth. And let's see if we want to adjust the whites at all. Not really. I wish that did that like the Lightroom does. How about the highlights? If we did highlights, we'd probably have to do some shadows. I'm not sure I'm digging that all that much. We probably would need to boost this up a bit. Yeah, I think we're just gonna probably, let's see, a little bit there, and let's call that good. I think if there was a incandescent bulb that was lighting my scene, that's probably what it would look like. So let's just leave it like that. We can always come back and adjust it later if we need to. All right, so there we have it. Here's our nighttime, and here's our lit surface. And I'm gonna hold the Alt key and hit the mask button down at the bottom to add a black mask to the warm glow layer. The real secret to making this all work is masking. You have to mask, mask, mask. So that means using using a marquee tool to actually make selections before you go lighting up these different things, because you're going to have to really define what edges the light is hitting and what edges it's not. Some of these masking, as we're going along here, I might speed up in the video just so you're not bored too much, because I know it can be kind of tedious to watch go through it. But the first thing I want to do is I have these black windows right here, and we need to have a light source coming through them. And the light source is going to be, kind of the bright light inside. What we need to do is try and mimic the low dynamic range that we would typically have with something like this, or high dynamic range. It depends how you look at it. But normally when we're photographers, we're doing like bracketed stuff to try and expand our dynamic range that we're able to capture with a camera. And that would be true with this photo if it was actually done at nighttime. So what we need to do is we need to actually kind of fake that dynamic range issue and make it so that the light inside the window is actually too bright and it's kind of blowing out the camera a little bit. And there's a few tricks for doing that. So I'm going to show you how we do that right here. First thing I want to do, though, I'm going to hide this mask by holding the Shift key and clicking on it, because I do want this color up. And the reason why I want it up is because I need to select the color as my foreground, that represents kind of what that color would look like. And I'm going to find a real bright instance of it right here. Now that's a little too orange for me. So I'm going to come and move it a little bit over. I want it to be a little more yellow than what the light is. Um, Maybe something like that. It still should be orange, but a real faint orange. All right, now I'm going to hit the mask with the shift key again, and I am going to create a solid color fill. And the solid color fill is going to default in with the foreground color, which is why I did it that way, so that it would already have the foreground color in there. I'm going to say yes, and Control I to invert this mask to hide it. And now what we have is a basically a light source. So we can draw this in here in the dark areas of the windows to have a light source. But we're going to do it a much better way than that. So what we have to do is we have to actually go and mask out this window. I'm going to use the lasso tool, the polygonal lasso tool, to actually do it. Um, I I know that people say to use the pen tool. You can use the pen tool. Pen tool does work really, really great, but I think this works really fast with a mouse, and it's kind of one of my preferred methods of doing it. So I'm going to start by just doing the outside of this window, um, and I'm going to be careful coming around these rocks. It does not need to be very accurate. The important thing is to just be somewhat believable. And you'll see I'm not taking a whole lot of time. You can take more time if you want to. But for me, it's more important to just kind of have the rough shape, and also for the sake of this video too. There's no sense having you guys sit and watch me do all of this. There we go. So now we have this rough outside, and now I'm going to take the subtract, hit the subtract button up there, and I'm going to subtract out the verticals. And then I'm going to also subtract out the horizontal. All right. And I didn't specify this before, but I do have feather set as 0 and anti-alias turned on. Anti-alias is going to keep you from getting the really jagged kind of edges on your angles, which you don't want. So you want those to be kind of a gradual, natural looking edge versus really hard jagged edges. So it's important to have the anti-alias on. It's not really necessary to go and do the select and mask for something like this, unless you want to. But for me, this is going to be just fine. We're going to have other layering stuff on top of it as well. So um, now we have the mask. So make sure we have the color fill layer selected, the mask selected, and then I'm going to toggle my white to the background color swatch, and then hit the delete key to subtract out, or to make the fill the selected area with white. And as a result, now we have lit window panes. And if we zoom out, you can see, oh yeah, it looks like somebody's actually got a light on inside of that window. It's very natural and very believable, I think. So we're going to zoom back in, do the other window here. Same sort of thing. I'm going to use the lasso, or the lasso tool, to go and do the outside. Rocks nice and jagged. And subtract out the vertical. Subtract out the horizontal. And same thing as before, make sure the white is the background color swatch, hit the delete key to fill that in. And that doesn't look too bad if I do say so myself. I'm going to go ahead though and um, just kind of help with the roundness of this just a little bit because um, I think the angle tool may have messed with me a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of round this out a little. There. Switch to the black foreground and kind of round this part out a little bit. And maybe just round a little bit there too. There we go. Perfect. Um, so you might be saying, why don't you just fill in the window entirely and then use your brush to brush out the individual panes? Yeah, you could do that. There's nothing wrong with it. You'd have to use a round hard brush. You don't want the feather on the edge because that kind of a blurred edge when you draw out those panes, which it's not going to look good. You need a crisp kind of edge because that light would be very definitive. So you could do it though. I just chose not to. I chose to use the marquee instead. So last but not least, we're going to zoom in and we're going to take care of this doorway. And for this, I'm actually going to turn off the warm glow layer just because, excuse me, turn off the nighttime layer so I can see a little better kind of what's going on in here, which didn't really help a whole ton. So I'm going to kind of imagine what it probably looks like in here. The door probably stops right around here somewhere. So I'm just gonna start here and just kind of guess. That right there is probably what my door looks like. At least the open lit interior, which is what we're going for here. So again, I'm going to select the mask, make sure white is my background layer, my background color, and hit the delete key to reveal that in the mask. Hitting D to deselect and go back and let's zoom out and take a look at what we got there. Not too bad. We're gonna be able to see that a lot clearer um, once we add the warming effects and actual light sources and stuff. Uh, Next thing we're gonna do with this layer, we're gonna need to put um, the light bulbs in here uh, in these lamp posts, and we're gonna do that with our brush. I'm gonna have a nice round brush, and I have zero hardness right now. I'm gonna put kind of a medium hardness on here, probably 50%. And I'm going to just, let's see, flow. I want to have a flow around 25% or so. And I'm just going to tap. And I'm going to tap. And now I'm going to grow, make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to tap again. Tap again. This time there's a third one in the background in case you can't see it. So it's a trio of lampposts here. But it's on the back side of the actual post. So you're not going to see the actual bulb itself. But you will see the glow from it. So all I'm doing is I'm just tapping. I'm actually going to increase um, decrease the hardness all the way so it's nice and soft. There we go. That's better. And now I'm going to come to the second lamppost, which is right here. It's kind of hard to see with the trees, but it is there. And I'm just going to tap a couple times to get a bulb going. And I'm going to increase the diameter a little bit. There we go. And increase it even more for the glow. And do the same for back here behind this lamppost. There. And I totally forgot one more step. we're going to zoom in quite a bit here, and I'm going to erase out, or actually paint black, but it's deleting or erasing the on the mask. But I'm going to switch my color to black on the foreground, and I'm going to use a series of click shift key combinations. So I'm going to tap up here, hold the shift key, tap down at the bottom, and that is drawing a straight line um, on the mask. So tap, shift key, tap again, tap, shift key, tap again. And essentially what I'm doing here is I'm erasing out some of the edges of this lamp for it, because you wouldn't be able to see it. The frame of the glass would be in front of the light, so it would be casting a shadow from the glare. And then here on this one, I'm going to be very kind of vague about it. I don't need to be super accurate, but I'm just going to erase out just a little bit of the glow from that one. And I also forgot about the lamps here on the house. So same sort of thing. Tap, tap, increase in size, tap again, increase in size, tap again. And we're just going to go ahead and add the lights first, and then we'll come back through and erase out some of the bars from it. And probably would have been a good idea to done all of these uniformly so that they all look the same. But that's okay. They wouldn't be all the same in real life. They would probably be close, but not exactly the same. They're at different distances from each other. They have different bulbs. Maybe one's newer, the other one's older. So they wouldn't all necessarily have the exact same glow. So this is fine. I think I do want to make this one a little brighter, but not. There we go. And then we're going to go really small here, zoom in even more, and do a quick little, oops, black is the foreground color, tap, shift, tap. Actually, these are curved, so I'm going to have to very carefully draw these on, which is fine. There we go. And they need to be, they're going to be subtle. You can just hand draw them. Just try and be as smooth as you can with your motion. If you don't have a pen and tablet to do this with, it could be quite a bit more difficult trying to do it with like a mouse. But there is always the smoothing adjustment up here. So you would increase the smoothing, and it would reduce the amount of jaggedness and jitter on your stroke that you're doing by freehanding. Another thing I'm going to do too, I'm going to increase the pen size a little bit and brush size, and I'm going to remove some of the glow from above and below. The glow would actually only be coming from the glass area of the lanterns, the lamps. So you wouldn't really see them above or below. So that's why we're kind of getting rid of that just a little bit. And let's zoom out and take a look. So see, from a distance, that looks very realistic, very believable. And we're going to be making those quite a bit brighter here in a second. This is just a foundation for the effect. We're going to come in here. Let's see, that looks like that was done already. Kind of did these out of order, my apologies. But I need to erase out. Actually, I don't think we did the large glow yet. So I'm going to do that. I may be wrong. No, it's okay. All right, let's take a look here. Black is the foreground color. Get my hand on the shift key and tap, shift, drag, tap, shift, tap, tap, shift, tap, and remove this here and up here. Tap, shift, tap, tap, shift, tap, and one more. Do a little bit back there on the top, and then we got to get this out in the middle here. There. All right, we got one more over here to do real quick. Same thing as before. Switch to white foreground. We're gonna tap, tap, grow a little bit, tap, a little bit more, tap, and then I'm gonna bring some over here, even though you can't really see it, because you know it would be there. You just can't see it. So we're gonna put those in there anyways, and then zoom in, remove some of these. Shift. Oops. I gotta switch to black foreground. Tap, shift, tap. Make this a little bit bigger here for this. Tap, shift, tap, tap, shift, tap, tap, shift, tap. And then we're going to remove here. There we go. And the bottom. And same as before, all of this area over here. Actually, I'm going to leave that because that glow probably could come from that other lantern up there. But I'm going to remove a little bit of it. There we go. All right. Zoom out. So now we have the foundations for our lighting sources. Next thing we're going to do a really cool trick that I picked up on YouTube. It's using color dodge, which is a blending mode that we don't usually see used a whole lot, but it works so good here. I'm going to call this color dodge. And then you set the blend mode for this layer to color dodge, and then come in and remove the checkbox on transparency shapes layer. If you hover over it, it says kind of describes what this setting does. Use layer transparency in determining the shape of the interior and the effects. So this will keep it so that it doesn't. Transparency is not a factor when you're editing. And I'll show you what it does. It's super cool. So we're just going to make sure that we have white selected as the foreground color. And we're going to start small and just kind of grow in size as we go. And you'll see what it's doing is it's actually blowing out. It's blowing everything out, which is cool because that's exactly what would happen if we were taking a photo of a light bulb, right? At night times. It would be really blown out. Start small, kind of make it bigger. There we go. And now we have this realistic light bulb at the center of these lanterns. Start kind of small, going to grow bigger. And you'll notice that it's not actually doing that much around the dark areas of this image. It's sticking primarily to the lit areas, the lighter colored areas that we added earlier, which is what this color filled that we added before is all about. It's giving it something for us to light up with this technique. I'm going to make the brush really big here, and I'm just going to tap, tap, tap right inside of here, and look how it blows that out. Blows out that window exactly like it would if we were doing this with a camera. We did spill a little bit over onto the rock, which I don't want. So I'm going to grab my brush, or my eraser, and I'm going to erase that effect away from the rocks. because it did mess with the lighter parts of the rock, which I don't want. So get rid of that. And also down here. There we go. A little bit over here, I think, too. And just for giggles, I'm going to take that out because it was a little bit too green for me. Now I'm going to go back to the brush. Do the same thing with this window up here. Wow, just look at that. It just lights it way up. It's too much though. But just, I find just if you brush with it, it's too much. But if you just tap the effect in, it looks fantastic. You come here with the brush and we're going to delete out little bits on the rock here. There we go. Perfect. All right, back to the brush. Let's come over here to this light. And I found that when I was doing this before that if you do them equally, so these are all the same size, all the same position, if I come and do them equally, it looks the best because then they are equal in size. There we go. Fantastic. And we're giving that blown out kind of just super strong color is what we're doing. For this one, I'm actually going to select these pixels and use the intersect here. I just want to grab this doorway, and I'll show you why I'm doing it this way here in a second. So now I've selected just this doorway from the color fill mask that we had going, and I'm going to grab my brush and just tap, tap, tap. Nice and bright, nice and bright. The reason I'm doing it this way though is because I wanted to be able to use a big brush because this is a big area that we're using. And use the big brush, but not have it affect any of these other places. I especially didn't want to have to worry about it hitting these lamps that are hanging on the side of the wall. So that's why I'm using the selection to do it. Same sort of thing though. It does the exact same, really great job. But now because this is a color fill, if we wanted to come in here and play around with this color a little bit more, we could do that. As I'm dragging this around, you see what it's doing on these lights? It's giving them different tints and accents, which is super cool if you ask me. So if we wanted to be more red, maybe they're halogen and they're going to be more green. There's all sorts of things that we can do. And it all, in my opinion, looks fairly realistic. I mean, this looks like, now you could go to the extreme like this, but you're gonna have a hard time selling it. It just doesn't look real to me. These should be tints, and it should be fairly subtle. So, I'm actually going to cancel that and go back to what it was before. I thought that was a good color. And we're going to keep going. Let's see, I think we are on this one. So back to the color dodge layer. White is the foreground color. Brush, I'm going to just tap, tap, tap. Remember, do them all in succession, so they're all the same amount of strength. And it's always important to come and zoom out, take a look at what you're doing. Because as you can see, this one back here looks really quite a bit brighter than this one does. So we want to make sure that they don't have to be exactly the same, because they wouldn't be in real life, but they should be, right? They should look like they're correct. So that looks a lot better. That looks like, it's more in line with what the other one is. And this one, because it's so close, I'm actually going to leave the brush fairly large and just kind of grow it from here. There we go. All right, there is that. So now we have the lit interiors. We have the bulbs. We got the blown out colors and so forth. So now we're going to go and take the warm glow layer, and we're going to start revealing this in different parts of the image. So you want to think about where this light would be naturally falling onto the surfaces, and you want to light those surfaces. So, for example, this round window up here, it's going to be on this crescent shape on the inside that comes from the actual glass to the exterior of the home. So we want to try and select that. And we're going to be doing all of this with selections. So I'm probably going to be speeding this up quite a bit um, in the video to try and get through this in a reasonable amount of time. Actually, I am actually going to select this entire circular area because I do want that warm color to be also on the arms, the panes of the window as well. So we're going to select all of this. Remember that you want to have anti-alias done active on the selection brush so that these edges are smooth and not jagged. But it's probably not necessary to have the feather on there. You may want to actually take a little bit more time in selecting that than I did, but just for the sake of this demonstration, and voila, there we go. And look at how nicely that looks. That looks incredible. It's very harsh right now just because of the way that the selection was, but we will soften that just a little bit here in a minute. Mostly though, I want to demonstrate how important it is to actually select out your image areas. So here we go. Let's do this one. There we go. You can see some of this too. Let's see. I have my flow somewhat down a bit, and white is the foreground color. I'm going to kind of soften some of this a little bit because some of these areas wouldn't be quite so harsh. And then some of these cracks as well. If it did come in, it wouldn't come in that much. Some of these are rounded surfaces, so it wouldn't be quite as harsh of a line as what I'm portraying. There we go. And then we zoom out and take a look. That's looking very realistic, I think. So next, let's do this doorway. And the doorway, we're just going to start by selecting this again. This highlight from the color fill. And then I'm going to use an intersection tool to intersect with that. So it's just going to get me this. And basically, that's just going to help me save a little bit of time on the selection process. Come over here to the warm glow, and I'm going to add to this. Let's see, I'm going to come up here to this doorway and come down here. And then there is a wall here that would be where the light stops from inside. It wouldn't stop necessarily, but it would be a different intensity. So you can see here how the stones have a different intensity of light. And come in here. There we go. Perfect. And now with white as my background color, I'm going to press the delete key to fill it. And if we come and look, there we go. And I'm going to do what I did before, use the brush to kind of soften some of this. Because although there is an edge there, it's not necessarily a hard edge. Some of these rock edges are kind of rolled and softened. So I kind of want to soften it a little bit in some places. There we go. And then it looks like we got a little bit of this roof here we want to get rid of. There. Next thing we're going to do is this edge here. So we're going to grab this, select out this edge. And again, you'll probably want to take more time in your selection than I'm doing here to make it more accurate. Hit the delete key to fill that in, and when we turn on the nighttime layer, we'll see that voila, that looks way better. And I've softened some of these here. A lot of times you can look at this and tell that, something doesn't look right. And it's like a really bright surface that shouldn't be bright, or dark surface that shouldn't be dark, something like that. And, just softening those up a little bit can go a long way. There. Nice. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to worry about lighting up the surfaces where the direct light is hitting. So the surface of the house. And we're going to do that with white as the foreground color and soft brush. And we're just going to kind of think about where this light would actually be falling on this home. And it would be a little bit up like this, and then it would probably come down. Actually, I'm going to use my brush for my walking tablet for this. And I'm also going to drop the flow down significantly so I can kind of gradually add the light in. And I'm just very lightly adding light to the surface from everywhere where I think this light would be hitting on the wall. So probably be the strongest here right around the light and then kind of fade out. So I'm kind of tapping that in as we go. Same thing over here. Tap, 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 tapping it in, and then kind of gradually fading it out down the side of the building. And watch for different corners that are near your light because they will be lit differently. So this wall here on the side, I'm actually switching to black as my foreground color to kind of soften that a little bit, just to have that differentiation of color tone. It's important to kind of represent that in this. And I'm going to kind of fade this out a little brighter towards the corner and then getting brighter as it comes out. There, and then there. Nice. And let's see, the light from yon window break, the light from this round circular window would probably be coming and hitting on the edge of this building. So I'm going to do a real quick rough selection of this. You're going to want to do a better selection for your project. But for the sake of demonstration here, I'm just going to do it real quick. And I would imagine a light probably would not hit right next to here, but it would probably be right around in here and then fade to nothing up there. And it'd probably be stronger in one area, maybe right about here. There we go. All right, deselect that. And also, I believe that there'd be some light on the ground here from the window. And then from the door as well, probably fairly bright towards the surface, or towards the opening, and then fade out as it comes down. Same here. The light, there would be a dark area right here where there was no light hitting it, and then it would come down. Because you got to think of light would react like it's a surface, or like a reflection. So it would not light immediately underneath this window. It would light out a little bit. And let's see. This light would also come and hit the edge of this building. It's this corner. So I'm going to do a real quick rough selection here. There we go. Real quick rough selection. And light against this corner here. Soften that. There we go. And it would also do this little strip here, but it would be a different intensity. So I'm going to do a separate selection for that. Again, really rough here. And I'm going to use the original corner. Probably should have separated it out, but since I'm adding to it, it's just going to make that even brighter, which is, oops. Make sure you have white as the foreground color. There we go. Deselect. Now, do you see how we have two different tonal values here? We've got the really bright edge that's facing more towards this light, and then kind of also lit a little bit, but it's facing away from the light. So it's kind of demonstrating how the edge lighting would work on this. And then there might also be just a little bit back here like this, but you got to think a lot of that would probably be cut off from the this edge. So there'd be a nice shadow there. So we'll add it, but we're just going to have it really shadowed. And then the roof might also have a bit of light as well. So let's go and select that. It wouldn't be much though, because it's pretty much facing away from the light, but there might be some just right here. White is the foreground color. Just a little bit maybe. I'm going to remove some of this because you don't want to see the edges. There we go. And then these lights here would probably cast right along this edge. So white is the foreground color. I'm going to draw right along here, kind of highlight that edge, because I think the light would really kind of pop those. There we go. And we got a little spillover, so we'll get rid of that. Perfect. There'd probably also be some lighting here on the steps as well, but for the sake of time, we're going to probably hold off on that a little bit. Let's see, let's come over here to this lamp. We're going to just light, we're going to light this up right here. Did I do that over here? I don't think I did. So we're going to light up the lamps right there. And up and down. it'd be really well lit right underneath those lamps. So we're gonna turn and make those nice and bright. There we go. Do the same thing for this one. Nice and bright through here. Because that grass would be really well lit with these with these street lights. Now the road, I'm going to do a really quick rough selection of this road. Actually, you know what I'm going to do instead of this? I am going to use quick selection tool. If memory serves, I did a really good job. Maybe not. I'm just gonna deselect. All right, now for this road, the road should have a slightly different characteristic to it than the grass does. There's a definite distinction and separation there. So we want to try and represent that in the highlights. So nice, even kind of distribution of lighting among the gravel. There we go. There will be a little bit more light where the lamps are, but I want the road to be a little bit warmer than that. So, and last but not least, I'm going to light up some of the green branches over here. And to do that, I'm going to turn off all of these and come back to my background layer and do select color range. And for color range, I'm going to pick the clouds and use the addition eyedropper, and I'm just going to click and drag all of the different colors here in this sky because I want to try and capture all of the different colors. There. So now you see we've got a really good kind of rough selection of the sky. I'll adjust the fuzziness just a bit because I want to try and get as much of it as I possibly can without getting this, the rest of the landscape. But I definitely want to make sure I am not getting any of that sky because I'm going to invert it right here. So now we've inverted it, and we are going to hide the marching ants by hitting Control H, and we're going to pull back up all of our layers that we've done, and next we are going to go back to the warm layer and draw in some highlights on the branches of these trees over here. So, and just little on just the tips where we think that the light might actually be hitting. There we go. Maybe a little too much there. And let's see, bring this flow back down a bit. There we are. Up in here. And then in these trees as well. Just a little bit. Wouldn't be quite as much back there just because they're further away from the lamps, but you still would see some. Up here. And see, this sort of technique is actually almost like exposure blending a little bit. Let's bring back those marching ants so they defaulted in, and we hit Control D to get rid of them. And a little bit of highlights there. Definitely some along this tree branch or trunk, but I'm going to probably need to zoom in. There's a hard edge here, so we're going to have to We're going to have to probably draw in this hard edge with our marquee tool. There we go. And do another edge here. There we go. Now we'll zoom out and just paint on this highlight. There we go. And do the same over on this tree trunk. Everywhere we think the light would actually hit it, we want to make sure that we get those areas. There we go. And we definitely would see some of it here. And back here as well. There we go. And I am going to call that good. I think, you could probably play around with this quite a bit more. Actually, if we come and do just a little bit of highlighting in through here as well, just to add a little bit of visual interest, I think that would be nice. But you don't have to. Just whatever looks good to you is what you should do. But I am really liking how this turned out. So yeah, I'm gonna call that good. So there you have it. We took an ordinary image that started out as this and turned it into something really cool like this nighttime view. Don't forget the most important step too is also to make sure you are zooming in and out. So you're seeing it while it's small, and then again while it's really big. And then the most important step, save it, come back to it after an hour, 2 hours, the next day even, because your eyes will be really adjusted to it. You'll be used to it. And 9 times out of 10, you come back later and you're like, ooh, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe I need more of this. And do some more fine tuning and tweaking of your image to make it look exactly how you want it to look. So yep, always walk away. It's hard to do, but you got to. So just save it and come back to it another time. Well, there you have it. That's the end of today's tutorial for transforming a day image to a night image. If you like content like this, hit the like button to let me know that you liked it. Comment below if you have any suggestions, or if you use this technique, I would love to see what you do with it. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell so you get notifications whenever I put out new stuff, and keep creating. Have a good day. Bye, guys.